Thank you so much to the University of West London and Westmont Enterprise Hub. Thank you, Dr. Nasimi, for those opening remarks, and Darius. As we can see, the Afghanistan and Central Asian Association has done considerable work since 1999 to help the integration of not only refugees, but primarily women and girls. As we can see, the majority of our audience are women and girls from refugee backgrounds who are here to tell their own stories. So I'm incredibly proud to host today's talk. I will swoop in straight into the discussion. The first panel hopefully will be focusing on Afghanistan and the women back home, and the second panel will focus on women in the UK. So good evening, thank you so much for taking the time and the interest to hear about the women of Afghanistan. Today we gather not just as a community, but a feminist force, united in our commitment to addressing the escalating challenges and injustices faced by the women in Afghanistan, both in the UK, but also back in the country. Our meeting here is not just a conference. I want it to be a call for action, understanding and solidarity in these troubling times. And as we sit in the heart of London and mark 16 days of activism, commemorating the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, which started this weekend, let us be reminded of the plight of the women of Afghanistan. As many of you know, in August 2021, the world witnessed a monumental shift in Afghanistan's history. Following NATO's withdrawal, the Taliban swiftly took control of the country, ending 2 decades of efforts to establish a democratic system. The takeover has had profound implications, reshaping not only the political landscape of Afghanistan, but also impacting the daily lives of women and girls. We have seen all across our headlines and the press, women and girls are banned from going to school, from going to university, from working, from having any role in society. It is the only country in the world where women are not treated as human beings. So we're honoured to have an array of distinguished speakers with us here today, each bringing a wealth of experience and insight into our discussions. I will, considering we're slightly delayed, it is a weekday, so a lot of our guests are here joining us after work, and we're incredibly grateful. But I'll start with the first panel, which will look at the realities of women in Afghanistan. We will delve deep into the current status of these women's lives, look at the basic human rights that they're deprived of, including education, the harsh truths of life following the fall of Kabul, and look at a panel of comprehensive views of challenges and victories for these resilient women. The second panel, which I'll introduce now, will be about women in refuge and in exile, and the role of the UK in empowering them to become independent, resilient, and pursue entrepreneurship in the UK. I'll now begin to introduce our 3 panelists for the first panel. We have Aalia Farzan. She was born in 1996 in Afghanistan. She's a news presenter and producer at the BBC World Service, focusing on educational programs for women and girls in Afghanistan. Despite losing her father in a suicide attack and facing family resistance, she joined BBC in 2018 and has produced original stories. She has also been recognised as BBC's Inspiring Women in News list in 2023. We also have, we're honoured to have Benafsha Yaqoobi with us, who's a former Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commissioner. She has dedicated her life to human rights activism and advocated for persons with disabilities. She has founded the organisation of Rahyab for retaliation services in Afghanistan in 2008, and with a Ph.D. in political science, she received the 2022 Human Rights Watch Fellowship for Disability Rights Leadership. And finally, but not least, Shaira Karimi. She's a researcher and specialising in civil rights, conflict, extremism, nationalism, and focusing on Afghanistan and South Asia. Her influential work at the Tony Blair Institute includes op-eds on Afghanistan's civil society and Taliban rule. With experience working with the Afghanistan Embassy in London, she also holds a BA in Kingston University and is completing her Master's at Birkbeck University. Please let us welcome our first panel. Thank you all so much for being with us today. I'll start with giving each of you 3 minutes for opening remarks. Please feel free to talk about your own personal journeys, but also the topic of realities of women in Afghanistan. Please try to keep it short because there will be questions not only from me, but from the audience as well, and you can get into the topic much deeper as we go forward. But yes, I will start with Shaira Jan.
Thank you so much, Shabnam. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
We don't have mics, so try to speak a bit louder.
I will try. So thank you so much. Actually, I'm really grateful to be here among such a lovely audience. Actually, so many beautiful faces, and also the panels that we have. And Dr. Nasimi, which I've heard a lot from and about. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna, Shabnam said that we have only 3 minutes, so I'm just gonna go quickly through the stuff that I wrote. I don't wanna go into a free talk because I explained to her that I might be, I might become very emotional or go into all sorts of directions, so I'll just keep it very short and brief. So first things I wanted to say, and I wanted to thank you, first of all, for all your work and that you're doing in the UK and for Afghanistani community. And also I wanted to say that women activism in Afghanistan right now needs all the support they can get. Like all the support that we have and we can provide for them is vital at this moment because I will explain why. First of all, I say that I believe that the women rights activists in Afghanistan are real warriors. Those women are absolutely, sometimes I just think, how is it possible to go on street and face to face with these barbaric regime and the Taliban and, look into their eyes and demand your rights. It's an enormous bravery for me. And courage, of course, they are very courageous. And it's not easy for us, for example, for women living in the West, to be a woman. And living in Afghanistan is probably 3 or 4 times harder. So I salute these women who, even though the world and the Afghanistani leaders have betrayed them for the sake of their geopolitical agendas and economic gains, and left them on their own to fight an ethno-religious terrorist organization. Not only that, but also to fight against terrorism, radicalism, tribalism, and patriarchy. These women are making themselves visible and heard by fighting face to face with the Taliban and presenting their case to the world. And it's not easy. It's not easy to be in that situation and raise your voice amongst all of these men.
Risk your lives.
And risk your lives. And we know what happens to these women. So it's very hard. And absolutely, I salute them. And I respect them enormously. Afghanistani women are not only fighting for their rights, and let's not forget that one, they're fighting for the rights of their children, their families, the LGBT community, and the women across the region. And they're fighting against and their fight is actually the backbone of the resistance against the Taliban and the oppressive apartheid regime. So unfortunately, the world is ignoring women's rights and the problems in Afghanistan because according to some of these politicians and some of these leaders, these are our problems. These are the Afghanistani people's problem because they consider it as part of our culture and as part of our religion, which is completely ignorant of them, I think. Unfortunately, these people are neglecting the fact that the Taliban, their culture, and the interpretation of religion is not the representatives of the people and not similar to the religious practices of the various cultures and identities and ethnic groups or communities across the country. They're also trying to enforce the idea of emirate and the terrorist organization by using various means, groups, organizations, and individuals to lobby, defend, and whitewash the atrocities of this terrorist organization and enforce it on the people of Afghanistan and make them accept them as the leaders. And the idea is that they present them as locals, modified as Taliban 0.2, a desired, wanted, and accepted by a vast majority of people in the country. So despite the initial promises that were seen by the Taliban during the Doha peace talk, the women could be allowed to exercise and their rights within Sharia law, including the right to work and study. The Taliban, on the other hand, they embarked on a campaign systematically excluding women and girls from public life, creating a gender apartheid system. Women and girls are precisely being targeted only because of their gender. And for that reason, the deprivation of their fundamental rights, including the rights of movement, which is very important and something that we all take for granted. It's very hard for women to move from one side of the country to another side of the country. The Taliban has, I'm just going to go right The Taliban has issued over 100 edicts and orders in line with the extreme and tribal interpretation of Islamic Sharia law. And about 56 or 60 of them are for women. And the Taliban are trying to silence and erase women from the public life and from Afghanistan society, forgetting the fact that women's existence, women's voices, and participation are key and vital to sustainable peace and political settlement in Afghanistan. The future of Afghanistan should be female. I believe in that, and should every woman, every feminist, should believe in this, that if you're believing in equality, liberty, and empowerment, you should do that back home. And I'm just going to say a quote by Audre Lorde, which I adore, and who was fighting for equality, liberty, and women's rights around the globe, unless some feminists, today's feminists, she said that I'm not free, while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own.
Thank you, Shaira Jan. I'll move on to Aalia Jan. Yes, please.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. And I have to thank you, and also Nasimi for organizing this great session to talk about what we can do for those women who are back in Afghanistan. So, as it was in the introduction, I've just come from the country, and I'm hearing from Afghan women all day that what they are going through. Their main problem is not Taliban. They're dealing with different type of difficulties in the country, from economy, society, to let's take Taliban and lots of other things. So what we can do here, we cannot just talk. I have seen lots of sessions, lots of conferences that they just talk and condemn the Taliban for what they are doing there. But that's not enough. We have to take action. What we can do from here. If we can do from here, what we can, we can ask other organizations, or maybe we can ask the government to take action and do something effective. So there, I know that Taliban have issues. Too many people respect the Taliban, but the main issue is maybe the people, the society. When the Taliban took the country in 2021, no men stood against Taliban. They banned schools, they banned universities, they banned everywhere. Women were on the street protesting against Taliban, but there wasn't any man beside them. Why is it? They didn't. Because deep down their heart, they were agreed with Taliban. Why would they risk their life for such things? Women are born to be at home, to marry, and to raise children. Why they should risk their life to protest beside women against Taliban? It's very dangerous. You don't have to do it, because what these women are doing, it's nonsense. It's useless. This is the main problem here, and it's very, very difficult to solve. Maybe you can change a government, but you can't change people's mentality. You can't change people's mindset. If we take serious actions right now, maybe we will be able to solve it in generations, not in years, not in months, not in days, in generations. We have to work through generations, and we don't have to step away, and we don't have to give up too easily. I think for now it's okay. So
Thank you so much.
continue.
Thank you. And Benafsha John, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Nasimi, thank you, Shabnam, and thanks for all colleagues who are here and who doing a lot for Afghanistan and for all nations who are going inside the, crisis and conflicts. Situation of women in Afghanistan is somehow clear for lots of you who are sitting here and listening to us. I'm gonna say, so we just take a minute and think very deep. We need to think a bit deeply about things which are going with Afghan girls and women. You think I'm gonna tell you as an example the story of one Afghan girl. Her name is Fatima. So Fatima was 17 years old in 2021, and Fatima has 4 sisters and 3 brothers. They are living in one poor area of Kabul city, and her father is working on the street. He's selling something to provide his family food, and 2 of their brothers are working, one is studying. And that time on now, as if the 2021. Fatima is going to school. She was a very smart girl. She had a good mark in all of her school's grade. She was at 11th grade. You may know the children who are 17, most of them are mostly they are at 11th grade. So Fatima was one of our beneficiaries in Russia. While the collapse happened, their family, and after they banned the education for all girls and women, and lots of restriction, limitation, the economic situation was damaged, so their father couldn't go to work and couldn't provide enough food for all of the family. So their family thought that would be better if we get married our daughters, our girls, because so why should we keep them? Because they can't go to school, they are not able to go to university, so let's stay at home, let's try to get them married to somebody. Unfortunately, someone came, a man who was maybe 68 years old. And it is unbelievable for you guys, but I am witness of this bad and bitter story. And they married that girl with that man very easily. We tried a lot to speak with them and tell them that's really bad. Don't do that. And do you know what they said? They said to me, they said, she's a person with vision impairment, total vision impairment. She's a girl. We have 2 others like her. She cannot go to school. There's no future for her. There's no bright future for her. What should we do? We cannot feed them. That's difficult. After this, it was forced marriage for that girl. So that happened. But the most bitter and the more tough point was that after 1 year, the man who was her husband killed because he was from a Taliban movement. I don't know who killed him. But now, Fatima is with a small baby, young baby. Now, he's not even 20 years old. But she's not even 20 years old. But she has a baby, and unfortunately, she doesn't have the hopes, the dreams which she had before. She wanted to be a very good journalist. And unfortunately, even today I spoke with her, but very much, what's our response to her? There is not one Fatima. We have millions of Fatima in Afghanistan. What will be our response? What's the international society response to him? What's our politician response to him? So, as Aalia said, we need to take an action. We need to think, what can we do? From where can we start? And then we need to start. This is not time for lots of speaking. We don't have a lot of time for lots of events. I'm grateful for this event because it's a start for me for doing some very useful things. But we need to take an action. We need to think, even if we can do like a drop of water, that will be a lot for Afghan women, practically for those who are inside the country.
So much for those insightful comments. I do absolutely agree that rather than have events like these on an ongoing basis, we need to have a call for action, which is exactly what we're planning to do. We have our team members here taking notes of this discussion, and we will be preparing a policy briefing that will be shared with international organizations and other stakeholders to make sure that the conversation continues. Unfortunately, there is very little we can do unless there is global solidarity with our cause. So we have to keep talking about this. And it is tiresome, but this is why you guys play such a big role. So I'll come back to you, Shaira. You know what? We spoke about this earlier about reading from your notes, but you speak so wonderfully when it comes naturally from the heart. So just really talk about, in the context of women's rights in the country, and the concept of democracy, of women's empowerment, of political participation. How is this understood in the country? How do people feel about women's rights inside Afghanistan? Because as we hear quite a lot in the media, unfortunately, since August 2021, people think that the Taliban came because the people of Afghanistan wanted this kind of regime. So what is it that the women of Afghanistan want? What kind of future do they want? And why is there a Taliban government today?
Well, thank you so much. It would have been easier for me to go through my notes, because if I start talking, I might go. It's not an easy topic to finish in 5-10 minutes or something. There's a lot to cover actually, and I don't want to jump into as we discussed the other day when we spoke. I don't want to jump into the bandwagon where the monotone speaking about the women's rights of that.
So tell me, what is it the women of Afghanistan want?
Well, I think one of the biggest problems that we have right now is it's not only about the education. It's not only about them going to work. It's about the entire system. It's not if your government doesn't respect your rights, if your government doesn't give you the basic human rights that it's the job of the state actually to provide, to maintain and sustain not only the females, everyone, and all the citizens, regardless of their gender, regardless of their ethnic group, and regardless of their nationality, whatever they are. Like for example in the UK. And one of the problems that I started researching about Afghanistan after the fall of the country. Before that, I, like everyone else, I thought that, actually the Taliban, they are Afghans, Afghans, which is one of the problems that we have right now in Afghanistan, is that, and with the international communities, it's not only even within the country, but it's outside the country, they're thinking that the Taliban are Afghans, so the rest of us is Afghans, so why they're not accepting this government, which is one of them? And this is one of the biggest problems, and we have to, and every single event that I am attending, either be with FCDO, either be with international organizations, politicians, anybody, we have to sit down for 15 minutes, explain to them what the term Afghan means. Why the term Afghan means Pashtun, and what is Pashtun? What's the difference between Pashtun culture and the Tajik culture and the Hazara culture, and why is not acceptable for the whole society to accept what the Taliban are doing in Afghanistan? And one of the problems, and when you look at this and when you look at this from this perspective, then you understand what's the problem with the Afghan rights in Afghanistan. One of the problems with the Taliban is that people are not mentioning this, especially their lobbyists and their supporters, the Pashtuns, unfortunately, our own Pashtun communities, that the Taliban are ethno-religious, nationalist, terrorist organization. It's a very long word, but this is how you define them. They are a group and an organization that are supporting a specific school of religion, which is Deobandism. They are supporting and are fighting for a specific ethnic group, which is Pashtunism, and they are also a Pashtun nationalism. And they are a terrorist organization. They are using force, violence, coercion, all of that to intimidate the people of Afghanistan. And basically, they're living in fear. They cannot go outside. The woman we've seen, like for example, last week, I think we tweeted about it, like a 5 Tajik woman, they were in prison in Taliban. So the idea, why, you were just thinking, why the Tajik women are fighting for their rights? Why we don't see many Pashtun women, and we see the Pashtun women as women rights celebrities, rather than going on the streets and fighting. What is happening, And this is because this is not in our culture. The Uzbeks, Tajiks, Hazaras, this is what they're calling democracy. This is what they're calling, the Taliban calling the democratic values or foreign values. This is not actually foreign to our culture. If you look at the Persian world and if you look at the Tajik culture, we do have the tendencies of human rights and democracy and all of that within it. So it's very hard. For example, I'll tell you from my own family, I'm coming from a Tajik background, and except my 2 grandmothers who are, God bless them, not dead now, but, they have attended school until they are 6. And the rest of the female members in my family, and I'm not lying to this, and all of these people who come from Afghanistan, and they know this, that most of the people, the Tajiks and Hazaras and the Uzbeks, their family members, they are forced to go to school. Actually, if you escape school, you will be in trouble. If you say, I'm not going to go to school, I'm going to get married. There's no father that says, you're going to get married by this age until they say, you have to finish your school in university, and then you have to get married. This is how it works in our family. And my aunties, I have 4 aunties. All of them have university degrees. My mother, she studied in Russia. And the rest of my family members, my cousins and all of them back home or here, all of them are educated. And it's really hard to explain this to the Western policymakers that, listen, don't force us to accept this culture and identity. Not everyone in Afghanistan. And this is like, we all have to have this and work with this mentality and idea that not everyone in Afghanistan is Afghan. I'm sorry. I don't believe in this. The day I found out that I'm not Afghan, I stopped crying. Honestly, I was sitting in a corner and I felt so betrayed. I felt so angry, and I felt so that they are imposing another identity, another ethnic group. Pashtun means Afghan means Pashtun, and they're imposing it on us, on the Tajiks, on Uzbeks, on Hazaras to accept this identity because they wanted to bring this group. That is, as I said, that the Western politicians have betrayed us, our leaders betrayed us.
We'll come back to that. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions from the audience about what you've just mentioned. This is, for a lot of people, this is new information. People don't understand the intricacies of the society in Afghanistan and the culture and the history. So we'll come back to you very quickly. I will move on to Aalia Jan. Considering your experience at the BBC and the nature of your program, I think you've recently started a new program called DAS after the fall of Kabul. How effective do you think the media and educational programs are in supporting women in Afghanistan, but also those in rural areas?
Media are actually playing a big role, but only in cities. We are seeing this. No one is watching this on rural areas because they don't have TV, they don't have electricity, they don't have internet, or some of them, because we are running this show on radio as well, some of them have got radio, but fathers are listening to the radio, not daughters or the girls. So these kind of programs are very effective. If people have got internet, if they have TVs, if they have enough electricity, if they have maybe at least radio, or they can read, or they can watch, or they have the permission to use that tool, or the device. It would be effective, but most of the people are living in rural areas. In Afghanistan, I think 75 or more than 75% of people are living in rural areas, that they do not have access to any kind of device. So how can we serve those people? We cannot play radio there, we cannot provide them maybe educational materials. Nowadays, lots of organizations are running online courses for Afghan children, but no one is taking those courses because they don't have access to it. We keep in touch with people, we ask them, do you ever listen or watch that? They say, how can? During the day, we don't have electricity. If we have electricity, my father will come and watch news.
So in your opinion, how can we educate the women and girls of Afghanistan whilst this ban on their education is still ongoing by the Taliban? What can we do? What can the international community do?
So there are lots of other restrictions in the country. We have got too many complaints about that they are not allowed to watch it. We go all around that traditional society. The problem is with the people, with the families, with our gentleman friends, but with the male member of the families. The problem is there. So in my opinion, okay, we can serve the cities. The girls who are living in the cities, they have got the luxury to use mobile phones, they have got the luxury to watch TV. But for those girls who are living in rural areas, we have to have, I don't know how much is it possible right now, but we have to have physical classes. And we have to hire people to go there, at first talk to their parents, educate their parents, and then go and educate the daughters or the children. We can't just say that the girls are not allowed to go to school. In most of the places, even boys are not allowed to go to school. Because parents believe that why I should send my son to the school rather than like working, sending him to somewhere that go to work and earn some money or provide some food to the family. This is our problem.
Thank you, Aalia Jan. I'll swiftly move on to Benafsha Jan. Let's be realistic here. Afghanistan has faced 43 years of war, and unfortunately that has created a society with many different disabilities that, from my opinion, we don't talk enough when it comes to Afghanistan. We talk about the ordinary men and women, but when it comes to the disabled women and girls in Afghanistan, there is very little coverage. So I'd like to hear a little bit from you, Benafsha Jan, about what sort of disabilities are currently experienced by women and girls inside Afghanistan, and what sort of support they need, and what we can actually do, practical steps that we can take to help these girls.
Thanks so much. Sophie, I will go to your question very briefly, and I will go to the women rights discussion as well. Because, so in case of disability, as we have the Asia Foundation survey which happened in 2019, 13.9% of all population of Afghanistan are living with severe disability, at least one kind of disability, which is severe. But the thing which I am witness of that, this is not the real data, because even on that time, because of the security challenges, because of the, in lots of areas that was with the Taliban, the Asia Foundation organization couldn't go there, you are aware of that. And so even this survey is less than the real, population of people with disabilities in the country. So we don't have any real statistic of different types of disability, and we don't know how many women and how many men we have with disability in Afghanistan, and which type is more and which type is less. Because sometimes we are seeing people with physical impairments on the streets and somewhere, hearing impairment, vision impairment, but unfortunately they are not doing anything for intellectual or learning disability at all. But we need to, if we want to support them, so they don't have access to any of their human rights, even fundamental human rights, like all women in Afghanistan, their health rights, education, all rights. What can I tell you? From 0 to 100. But in case of women, because I had a research which I started in 2020, and it was my thesis, my doctorate thesis in one university in India. So my bio was just, FIFA was just 2 months ago, and I finished and wrote that Ph.D. That was regarding the impact of democratic governance on women political rights in Afghanistan from 2001 to 2021. Why I came to that? Because, as you said, in Afghanistan we have diverse of cultures, diverse of, women, even a diverse of female cultures inside the country. South, North, East, and West are different. So, in Afghanistan, as I studied, and I know, my research told me that even in those years, which we had very good legal documents, very good law, supportive law, but unfortunately, still there were lots of problems and challenges in front of women. But now, but besides that, if I compare that 20 years with before, there's some years before that, if we go to Mujahideen period and then the Taliban's first period, and now there's the Taliban's second period, we can say that 20 years was a golden year for Afghan women. Because we had our, contribution in parliament, in the Shranjaga, in different leadership of, different places of Afghanistan, political place, and then we had good access to education, even in that time because of the patriarchal society, and because of the, unfortunately, wrong culture, which is kind of, they're telling us this is your culture, although this is not our culture. It's kind of compulsory thing, but we had lots of challenges. I will share with you later, just in case of the situation is more violent than all.
Thank you so much, Benafsha. Thank you to all three panelists. I'm now going to go to the floor because I don't want to take too much time asking them my questions. I'm sure they've got a lot more to say. But if there are people in the audience who want to ask questions directly to our panelists,